Louis Rossman with Navy Commander denied router password at sea. Why military needs the right to repair. By, of course, Louis Rossman.
My friends, today is a dark day in the United States of America. That's not drama. It's actually overcast right now. In all seriousness, I've been talking about right to repair on this channel for the past 13 years. And when I talk about right to repair, I've talked about it within the context of consumer electronics, laptops, cell phones, televisions. I've talked about it for tractors. I've talked about it for medical equipment. I've talked about it in a lot of ways that you may be able to grasp because these are things that affect you. And you may wonder, how does military right to repair affect me? This is not an issue for me. I don't agree with the way the United States military does things. And frankly, if they're not able to have another warplane, that's okay by me. And one of the things to understand is that you and I, we work on something called a budget. We have this much money, we have this much that we can spend, so when something breaks, we either go without or we fix it. Whereas the United States military, they just get a bigger budget every single year. So if they're not able to fix things, what that means is that they take more of your money, which is something that I think is not in your best interest as a U.S. taxpayer, to see to it that the money that you spend does not get wasted on $260,000 of shipping. It doesn't get wasted on replacing a $100,000 card when a wire will do, that it allows people to have access to things like a login for a router so that when they're out at sea, they are not stuck with a communication system that functionally doesn't operate unless they fly a contractor out there at a cost of several $1,000,000. The one thing
that is such a waste. Like, look, at the end of the day, have your opinions, right? At the end of the day, I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you how to think. I can tell you from my own personal boomer view. Look, back in my day, you used to buy something, and that used to mean something, okay? I could go buy a Nintendo 64, one of which I have sitting right there. I can go modify it. I can choose to modify it, have someone modify it. I could take out the funny little, what was it, the RAM, and then put in the expansion pack in, the one with the red top, right? Can't do that with a Switch 2 necessarily, right? Switch 2 doesn't even work with third-party docks from what I understand, because there's like, 5 or some odd handshakes that have to happen between the dock and the system. They're just outright bricking your console, right? Look, back in my day, you bought something and you owned it, right? And I think that having the view of, well, insert anti-military rhetoric here, I think that's a very narrow way to look at it, because ultimately this does affect you. If there's precedent that can be set by this, you think that it's not going to hit the civilian market in any way, shape, or form? Oh, it absolutely is going to, right? Oh, well, the Navy doesn't need, the military doesn't need another plane. I think it's just a very narrow view to come at it with. And at the end of the day, right, regardless of how you feel, this is advocating for, right to repair. If you buy something from a military contractor, one, it better work because you're being paid how much money? Two, I inherently disagree with taxpayer money being spent on a contractor to go and fix something that reasonably people in the military can just fix. Like, I know there's a lot of memes that are made, oh, well, those Marines, you know what I'm saying, right? Or, the Army ain't necessarily the brightest tool in the shed, right? Regardless of, your personal feelings, regardless of what the branches will say about each other, right? A lot of them are clearly qualified personnel. I'm sure a lot of them know how to work on hardware. I'm sure a lot of them know how to work on software, right? And there's different departments. Not everyone's a combat role. So being able to just completely just oust everybody from technology that they need to do their job is wild to me.
I would ask of you, there's going to be a link down below to where you could go to support the Warrior Right to Repair Act. This Warrior Right to Repair Act is a bipartisan act in the United States Senate. If the military is able to fix their own stuff, which is one of the largest sectors of United States spending, and right to repair gets put into the culture there, it might just start to actually show up in other areas as well. Supporting right to repair in one place means supporting right to repair everywhere. And above all, supporting right to repair and the ability to fix things rather than throw them away when it is with an agency that has over $800 billion budget that goes up by 5 to 10% every year.
Also, minus the Marine Corps, fails 7 consecutive audits. No, I do not drop that. I talk about it less. Doesn't make me any less critical.
I'm just saying, as a taxpayer, that's something I have interest in. But that, I'm going to play you these stories. Can you just introduce the audience to yourself?
So I was in the Marine Corps for about 16 and a half years. I was a tank mechanic.
So my name's John Eshman. I'm a former E2 NFO.
I got out of the Navy in December of 2019. So it's been a few years.
My name is Kevin Corsi. I joined the Navy right out of high school as an electronics technician nuclear.
First question is, what do you think the primary problem is with how repair works in the military before we dig into any of the specific examples that you had brought up?
Probably the biggest is just how the contracts are written. We have a contract, but it's not written in there that we can actually change anything or fix it. Or when you're out at sea, things happen, and we've got to be able to take care of ourselves and fix things. And if the contract says, well, no, you can't, well, that's a problem. And
the contract is dumb. Pardon my French. The contract is dumb, okay? Rewrite the contract.
Then, if someone does try to fix it, you can get in trouble for fixing it. So the E2 Hawkeye, like I mentioned earlier, it's airborne early warning, command and control platform of the Navy, carrier-based, so it's kind of the eyes in the sky, if you will. It's a communications platform. Essentially, it was a router. Like you have a home router, you log in with your password, you have troubleshooting. You just log in with a password, username and password, and you look at your stuff, you troubleshoot, you fix it, you back on the internet, and you're good. This system was, for all practical purposes, that. We had some problems, and I was in the squadron. I was an avionics division officer. I know my guys. They know what they're doing. They're trained to work on this platform. These guys are smart. They know what they're doing. They can handle this. We were stuck because we can't log in. This is part of a program that's contracted out. We reach out to him. He's hundreds, thousand miles away. We tell him what's going on. Hey, we even troubleshoot it down. We need to log into this router. So we reach out to this contractor, and he refused. Even my commander.
Dude, he refused. I'm sorry, he refused. So I have it on good authority because we talked about like a bunch of nuclear engineers being fired in early 2025 and how like, well, no, because at that point they can say, well, I don't want to come back, but what does it matter? National security, they can just pull you right back even if they fired you, right? Literal government fires you from your role as a nuclear engineer, they can just pull you right back in. And that's not just for that. Like there's a number of positions, from what I understand, that even if they fire you, you can't refuse to not, you can't just refuse. You have to go back if they say we need you back. Like, they refused? We want to talk about national security. You want to talk about something that's absolutely egregious because this can and will put soldiers' lives at risk? Contractor just, I don't really feel like it. Bro, grow up. This is the real world. You are paid to do a job. Literally, put the fries in the bag, Mr. Contractor.
Officer reached out to him. This is my squadron. I'm the commanding officer. I will take this password information. Still refused. So we can't even use the communication system on this bird because
I honestly feel that contractor should be arrested personally for literally impeding the United States military. Dude, that is wild to me. And like these are contracted through the Department of Defense. Are you actually serious right now? Like, I've had a lot of people say that I bring something interesting to the table, or at least bring a unique perspective to the table as someone who's a civilian. And I guess I've had to think on it for a bit, right? Where I feel I can say certain things while the military might not be able to say certain things. If that's going to be a shtick I have, yeah, I'm going to advocate for that all day. That contractor should be fired. He should be blacklisted from the industry. He should not be allowed to work in any way, shape, or form contract with the Department of Defense ever again I don't feel like it. I don't want to do this. Grow up. Get bent.
Because this contractor doesn't want to give us the rights to log in and actually confirm what's wrong and try to troubleshoot. No, he has to do it himself. I have to get someone to fly out to the carrier to fix the system. No, we're at sea. We potentially at war. I need my guys to have all the information to fix this bird on the carrier because we're not getting support. We're thousands of miles away from home.
The 05 commander was not even able to get that login to that after asking. So this would kind of be like if the Waltons asked for the password to the Linksys WRT54G router at a Walmart, and after doing that, still were not able to get it as the owners.
Essentially, yeah.
Isn't that property of the military, though? Contractor or not? Did you not contract with the military? You are literally gatekeeping military assets from the military. Excuse you? What? What? Bro, I'm apparently too boomer to understand this. I'm apparently just too brain rotted to understand this, I guess. This is wild to me. Right? Like, this isn't some nobody, right? This is someone who clearly knows what they're talking about. Both of these individuals on screen, right? They know what they're talking about. They know their stuff. This isn't hard.
Hopefully they've resolved all this stuff since when I was dealing with this in 21 and 22, having all these issues with these systems. And then Havquick in particular, that system on the ship's company had trouble getting it to work, and they had to call us down to try to help them fix it. And then when I was in there messing with it, I got to look into figuring it out and realizing, okay, this is a Windows XP system with a Pentium 4 processor. This is 2020 and 2021 at this point. So Pentium 4s, how are you going to get replacement part for this? Where are you going to easily find a Pentium 4 to get this system running up again if it breaks? And who's going to fix it? The sailors didn't have the proper documentation to even get it working. This is insane.
So just to make sure I'm understanding.
That's actually insanity, though. What happens if their ship's under fire, right? We're going to go worst case scenario. What happens if they're in an active combat situation? Or like maybe, I don't know, somebody puts a funny underwater balloon there and the ship's actively taking in water. I don't know. Surprise U-boat happens. I don't know. We're obviously going like super speculative at this point, right? Like we're going way out there. Worst comes to worst, right? People's lives are at risk. That contractor should have every single casualty and fatality held against them. Absolutely. If this is practice and people seemingly don't understand consequences, you force the consequences on them, because at that point, you and your actions, your inability to, oh, I don't feel like it, or inability to go out there because, I don't know, it's an active war zone, there's an active situation happening, literally cost people their lives. Oh my God, this is bad.
Understanding this correctly, where you worked, the policy was if you have donors and spares, even if we're not in an emergency situation whatsoever, we're always going to use the donor spare and replace it, and we're only going to do component level repairs during an emergency.
Correct. The price of hardware is absurd. I've definitely had thoughts of, hey, I'm holding something that is worth more than the house I'm going to buy eventually.
That's
how do we get the new
wild.
parts? How do we source the parts? And what we end up noticing is more and more aircraft were sitting on the parking strip with orders saying, we need this part, and there's a TBD on that date, and we don't know when we'll get it.
What do you mean you don't know when you're going to get it? Find the damn part. This isn't hard. Oh my God, if I have one more people say due to pandemic shipping concerns, bro, you are contracted through the U.S. military, the Department of Defense. That excuse doesn't fly anymore. You are going to mind your P's and Q's. Yes, sir. No, sir. I will get that done for you, sir. No ifs, and or buts.
If Congress were to actually pass a right to repair bill for military equipment, what should they be focusing on primarily that are the major drivers of issues with repair when it comes to the military? Not just in how long it takes, but also how much it costs. Like, what are the things that should be focused on that may not be in the spotlight right now?
Access to schematics. This is an interesting one that I think you might find funny. There would be so many times where we would be troubleshooting. We were actually trying to figure out what the problem was, and we couldn't get further. And we would call our tech rep, our Boeing tech rep, who would come out and say, I can't help you. I don't have access to looking at that. They would then call an engineer who is one level above them. And that engineer would come with these schematics that had everything. And we were like, where did you get this from? And why don't we have this? And they would take it with them. They would let us look at it. We would have to trace it, but they wouldn't let us make copies of it. They wouldn't let us take it away from them. They wouldn't let it out of their sight. And then when they left, the schematic left with them. And I'm just like,
why is this in the hands of contractors and not high up? Like, does the DoD, the Pentagon, have access to these, or is it just through the contractors? Because that feels like, matter of national security to not be able to fix basic things up into planes. I'm assuming, right? Boeing, plane, right? They're pretty synonymous with each other. You're telling me that nobody is going to have access other than the contractor? That feels like a conflict of interest and a matter of national security all in one, dude. That is FUBAR.
We own this. Like, this aircraft belongs to us.
Yeah.
Why don't we have access to everything in the aircraft?
With the transition to heavily relying on external contractors, we are converting our electronics technicians to ITs, because the procedure is just, oh, whatever, swap out that card, somebody else will pay for it, whatever. Over time, eventually you're going to get to a point where when you have that critical emergency of, I need to actually fix something, eventually you're going to run into a case where you need somebody to actually fix something, and that skill has not been established, taught, or practiced.
So when we order parts, there's priorities. Higher the priority, the faster we get the item. But with faster shipping comes cost. I once ordered an item while I was overseas, and the item was $160,000, and the shipping there was $260,000. And I never saw these numbers while I was here in the U.S. None of us see those numbers.
Is that the tank or the part for the tank? 260.
A part for the tank.
And that was the shipping, or that was the shipping.
Bro, who's making the money? Who's making money here? That is absurd.
Shipping plus the part.
No, the shipping alone was $260,000.
Well, what? So how is this being delivered?
In what world does that make sense? In what world does it? And don't get me wrong, right? A lot of the commentary is going to be, that's just how it works, and I understand that. I understand that if this is how this works, that's how that works. That's how you got to go through. I understand that. We're here advocating that this is dumb. Okay, like this is asinine. This is not how this should work. Like, these numbers need to be way more transparent with all parties involved. That's dumb.
35?
The fiscal people who track the money everywhere can see it. But us as Marines who are just doing the maintenance, ordering parts and whatnot, we never see the cost of the shipping.
So I'm imagining that you and your team would make different choices with regards to which shipping option you chose. If you could see the U.S. taxpayer is paying $200,000 to get it by Monday and maybe $4,000 to get it by Tuesday. Am I correct there?
I wouldn't. The commander was like, no, we need this now. I would be willing to go argue with him. Like, look, it does us no good. It's not like the item needs to be used now. We're not doing anything now. Like, one day is not going to make a difference because that money could be allocated elsewhere or to provide more maintenance and more.
See, listen to what this man is saying, right? This man clearly knows his stuff, right? You know, Marine Corps veteran, right? If you're not going to listen to me, because I'm a civilian, that's fine. I'm a dingus on the internet. I totally understand that. If you're not going to listen to Louis Rossman, who has literally been the strongest right to repair advocate that I physically know on the internet, right? Love this man's views, right? I love this man's views on, look, you used to be able to buy something, you can fix it, right? Like, you have the ability to do it. You purchased the thing, right? Like, listen to the person who's literally the veteran in the room, right? Listen to the person who knows his stuff. If the goal is, well, the financial people, the fiscal side of things need to worry about this. You in active duty, you know, you don't need to worry about this. Clearly they are worrying about this because now they're worrying about cost because, oh my God, like, we don't need it now, but I guess we could use it next day. We can't have, leave this forever, but, we could, like, you have failed if your goal is to make the people on the ground doing the jobs, right? If the goal has been made for them to not worry about it, you've only compounded the issue by making them worry about both sides of this now. They're worrying about not having the part, and then they're also worried about the fiscal side of it and the logistical side of it of, do we get it here in this amount of time between X and Y date, and is that going to be a reasonable amount of money that we're spending on this? Is that not why the fiscal side exists to begin with? Dude, this is so asinine to me.
Repairs in the future, and it saves money. Us in the military, I know we get paid by taxpayers' dollars, but we're still paying taxes ourselves.
So the schematics, the way they work is there's different levels of schematics with the systems that we worked on. Some of them would be wiring diagrams. They literally show you the direction of the wire and what systems they connect to. Other of them, operational schematics, they didn't really show the direction of the wire. They really showed the logic of how one system logically connects to another and how it logically affects other systems. There might become a disparity at a certain point where it says, I cannot troubleshoot further because these wires don't exist on this diagram. You might need to troubleshoot further and say, hey, maybe it's not this expensive $110,000 component. Maybe it's a wire that I can literally replace myself, but you don't know that.
One thing he said there, I just wanted to leave my own comment on, is when he was talking about the difference between the type of schematic that says, this is a line that goes to a box of a system, and this is a schematic that shows you how the system is put together, is that's the same thing that we're talking about when I say, here is a schematic on how the Apple motherboard is put together, and here is Apple's instructions that they give their authorized service providers that tell you, here's how to take the motherboard out of the computer and put in a new one.
Makes sense. Makes sense that there's multiple different things. My face is blocking it, but Clinton the cat is making a very wonderful judging stare in the past scene.
There's documentation, and then there's actual documentation. And what I find very interesting, the further I go down the rabbit hole, is everything I've been talking about when it comes to fixing consumer electronics not only applies to agricultural gear like tractors and medical devices, but it also applies to gear at the military level as well. This is about so much more than just being able to fix consumer electronics, cell phones, MacBooks, and everything else. At a cultural level, we have lost the plot when it comes to repair and allowing people that actually fix things to be able to have access to what it is they need to make things work again, so that you could save time, save money, and get to a point where you're not pissing off BlackBerry the cat. Because
I love this. Oh, is that BlackBerry? I'm so sorry.
At the end of the day, the most important thing, if we've gotten anything across here, is that you don't piss off BlackBerry the kitty.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree. I concur. So sorry for calling you Clinton. I love this. Cat knows.
I'm going to have a link to a form down below. It's going to make it as easy as possible for you to email your representatives based on your address so that you don't have to go through the figuring out who is your senator, who is your Congress representative, how do I email them, what do I say. It's going to make all of this as easy as humanly possible. There's going to be a link in the pinned comment of this video. If you would like to see the military fix their stuff and think this is an important issue, you will be able to use that to email or call your representative. It'll try to make everything as easy for you as possible. So my comments aren't filled up with the, who is my senator? What is an email? How do I contact them? What is I could just click the link. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. And remember, by clicking that link and emailing your senator, you are making BlackBerry very happy. Show them your happy face, girl.
Oh.
Happy face.
Blackberry is very good. Very, very cute
What a
cat.
good kitty.
Yeah.
You didn't knock over the camera for a whole 20 minutes. Good girl. Good girl. Good kitty.
Oh, good scritches.
See you in the next one. Bye now.
Look, at the end of the day, whether what I want the military to do is irrelevant, okay? I'm a dumb civilian online, okay? Look, what bothers me, what really gets under my skin, is that people in active service are being left without any reasonable means of fixing stuff. If things go sideways, lives will be put at risk. I'm not your dad. I'm not your mom, okay? I literally cannot tell you what to do. Not in any sort of good faith, right? If you're not going to listen to me, if you're not listening to Louis Rossman, talk to veterans. If you're a veteran, talk to other veterans, right? Or I'm sure you've already come to your own educated conclusion on the subject, right? Like, I'm not going to put the link below, as I feel it would be disingenuous for me to put the link below, but the link will be in this original video, which his channel, as well as the link, is in the description of this video. The link to this video, which it's under, right? I would feel disingenuous to put it under mine, as, you know, I'm merely reacting to a work. I'm not putting out this work in its entirety, right? Like, this is so incredibly dumb to me that it is controversial that not even just from the civilian side of things, but from the military side of things that you buy and pay for, you have zero right to service. That is bonkers to me, and that will lead to casualties and fatalities. So maybe that colors my bias. Maybe that, showcases where I feel on the issue. You know what? That's fine. Come to your own educated conclusion. You're an adult. You're a big boy. You're a big girl, right? You're a big they, them, right? Come to your own educated conclusion. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Louis Rossman, for continuing to be an advocate for right to repair. I think that's very, very important, especially as of right now, especially with the whole Switch 2 stuff going on. And I will see you all in the next one.